Hello, and welcome to Anna Stories Live, a show that shares people's journey of living with neurofibromatosis. I'm your host, Brandy, and today is a special episode, everybody. I get a chance to sit down and talk with our very own president of the board at the Tumour Foundation of BC, Jill. Welcome, Jill, and thank you for coming to share with us all.
Welcome. Thank you. Thanks for the call.
So, now, I've never heard your story before, even though we've been on board calls together. So I was wondering if you could tell me and everybody else when Anna first entered your life.
Okay. I guess it starts with the adoption of my child. We adopted him when he was 4 days old, and he was perfect and beautiful and a wonderful baby. And we were thrilled to have him in our family. And when you go through adoption, there are lots of additional health checks just because doctors don't know what the prenatal care was, that kind of thing. And so as we went through that process, by the time he was 3 months, we had a diagnosis of NF. So it was very early diagnosis.
Yeah.
And so it was a big adjustment for us. And I did what lots of parents do. I'm sure I immediately went on Amazon, bought the textbook and read it cover to cover, trying to understand what we were dealing with. And started to, get onto some of the chat forums and that kind of thing, trying to learn what other families were doing. And by the time he was probably 3 years old, we were having more kind of complications, meetings with neurologists, that kind of thing, and starting to get a picture of how severe his case was maybe going to be. And it was a scary time. And that's when we also found out about the Tumour Foundation of BC and started to attend the annual seminars and get more and more involved. So definitely a lifesaver for us to get off of the very scary platforms online and start to talk to real people.
Yeah. When you get those real stories, it's a bit more comforting than what you can Google, I bet, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So when you first came to, you were saying you attended symposiums and all that for support. Is that what brought you in to decide that you wanted to get more involved by becoming on the board?
I guess so. I'll say that that first symposium that we went to, it was actually for like a national organization.
Okay.
And it was terrifying. It was the scariest thing I had ever been to. It was just, as a new parent, as someone who's trying to wrap your head around what you're dealing with, it was just so scary. And so it really took a lot for me to push myself to go the next year and to go the next year and to get more and more comfortable with it. But so important, right? Because then I started to meet more people and started to feel like, okay, we're not quite alone on this. And there is information out there and there are people who are going through it. So that was kind of the start for me. And then just as a bit of a fun thing, we ran a little tiny fundraiser just with our family, just for fun. And the foundation, well, Desiree turned around and said, hey, why don't you just join the board instead of mucking about on the edges? And so I got involved. And I think it's been so rewarding for the same reasons, right? You're learning from others, you're realizing that others are going through these kinds of issues as well, and you don't feel so alone. And I guess for me, the most important thing is that I'm putting my energy into action instead of into worry. I just thought I can sit here and worry about it and drive myself crazy, or I can try and make things better and try to put that energy into that. So yeah, that's how I've just become increasingly involved.
Yeah. So the action really helped you to cope with going through. Has your son had a lot of challenges faced with NF?
So far, not too bad. Yeah, we went through a patch at about 3 where there were a lot of concerns and a lot of doctors um, and not always a lot of answers. Or I don't know. We live on Vancouver Island, so we would travel over and go through all sorts of appointments and then not hear anything. Like the continuity of care wasn't always there. And so I really learned through that kind of period how much anxiety it causes when the medical care isn't kind of smoothly there to serve your family and to make sure that you're informed and you're making good decisions. And so yeah, I think that that it kind of resolved itself, and we're not in a super scary place right now, which is great.
Yeah.
And who knows about the future.
Yeah.
But it was a big education for me, just about the care that's available and how to navigate it, and how we can make things better.
What has been your resources now? Like, have you, like you were saying, you're finding that it's hard to find the care. What have, like, how have you coped with that? How have you navigated it, as you said?
Whew, it's difficult, like most parents, I keep my scribbler and I write all my notes during the meetings and
Yeah.
do my best to stay on top of it. But it's difficult when there's no one person that's playing the role of coordinating care. So I'm sure a lot of parents out there are feeling like, they are the ones kind of saying, hey, remember you were supposed to book an MRI and you were supposed to look at the, annual eye test, and you were supposed to do this and that. And it's very challenging when you're, on top of that, running your family and, working your job and trying to do all of those things. So yeah, I think my experience has been pockets of amazing care and amazing, empathetic, wonderful doctors, but not the coordination to pull those all together. You're not in an episode from a television show where there's a wonderful team just guiding you through.
Yeah. There's always an answer at the end of it, right? The solution at the end. Not quite the case.
Yeah. That's my dream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as you say that's your dream, what have you found since becoming the president that's been your biggest surprise? That when you got on and you got more involved, what was your biggest surprise?
I think that there's such a diverse range of people who are impacted by NF, and I'm not just talking about people who have NF, but the families that are supporting them. And their needs are so diverse, and their situations are so diverse. It's challenging to find programs and resources that are helpful for everyone. And their experience with NF is different. Their experience with the medical system is different. So I think what I've really learned is that everyone's experience is everyone's experience. And we have to respect how people are traveling through this journey, because it's not easy, and try our best to support one another.
What has been your biggest support in your whole NF journey? Like you were saying, your son was adopted, and like, you've been through a lot.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Yeah.
I would say I'm very fortunate. My parents are pretty aware, and so it's been good to have them as a sounding board. They're very level-headed people, so even in those early days when it was so scary for me, to be able to talk to them and explain, the doctor said this and this, and to have someone kind of say, take it down a notch, what about this? And I think the foundation itself has just been a huge support to me. It's kind of weird to say it, but it's normalized the situation. I don't feel so extraordinary, and I don't feel like there was a point where, because we had adopted as well, people were kind of saying, you should join this support group and that support group and this support group. And I was like, just how special are we?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how many support groups do you? And
Yeah.
so it's just, yeah, like I said, it's really normalized it. And it's just kind of shown like there are lots of families dealing with this and far worse. And you are strong enough to do this, and let's help each other. I think for me, that's been the biggest thing. That's what the foundation's really taught me.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that. What when you got on, did you have like these big goals that you would like to have brought to the board and for the NF community? Is there like some goal that you would like to achieve?
I would say, and I'm sure all the board members would agree, I'm pretty focused on medical care. I think, we run amazing programs for support and camaraderie and education, and I think they're brilliant. For me, a very big focus is the medical care and how do we improve what we've got in BC? How do we make sure that families feel supported and that they're not left, waiting for an MRI for so many years, or not getting the results on their MRIs, or we hear so many stories. So I guess for me, that is absolutely the focus, is what can we do to make things better? And that can be small things. It doesn't have to mean, that we have a multi-million-dollar clinic that's sitting in the middle of Vancouver and everybody can come to it. It can just mean helping to educate the doctors, helping to educate GPs and give them resources to say, actually, you might not know everything about this, but here's a guide. Here's what you need to look at every year. Here's some questions you should be asking your patients. Here's some tests that you should be running. And I know I've passed those on to my own doctor, right? Just as a resource to say, there's guidance out there. You don't need to come up with this all on your own and get a degree in NF to look after my child.
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. So speaking of, if we were to get here at the board this huge, like almost like winning the lottery, so that's where you would put it. You would focus on the, I know, wouldn't that be lovely? Just here's a check for you. Do what you need to do. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is that's where you would focus?
I think so. For me, improving the medical care, getting that expertise in BC, and we have pockets of it, but it's just not consistently there for every patient, right? To me, that's the most important thing. If you know that you've got the medical support that you need, that anxiety level can start to come down. You're not managing your own case. You're not terrified at night. I don't know if you're like me, but lying awake at night worrying if you've done everything that you should do to make sure your child is getting the care they need. Like it's an unhealthy feeling, right? So knowing that you've got that support and the care is there, that's absolutely where I would do the investing. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I totally hear you on that. Do you, what's your one goal for this year? Like, I know, like you said, it's little things, and yes, ideally it would be lovely to have this NF clinic, like you said, sitting in the middle of Vancouver and we're all taken care of. But with the little things, what's something that you would like to see happen this year?
I think, looking back at the last year, we've seen a lot of nonprofits really struggle to survive through the pandemic, really struggle to serve their communities. And that hasn't happened for us. Our community needs us more than ever. And people are responding with donations and doing what they can to help. And I think that is fantastic. For this next year, I'd really like to, inch along on that, maybe hopefully not inch, mile along on that plan to get the medical care improved. And we've certainly got some plans underway to make that happen. And also focus on the financials of the foundation, make sure that we've got enough to do what we want to do. We have enough to survive, but wouldn't it be great if we had enough to really push forward a lot of these initiatives, especially when it's a difficult time right now. So I think we've actually flourished through the last year, and I hope that we can do that again through the next year and really see us have the resources to move forward with a bunch of our initiatives.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. Um, with moving forward, and what is something that we can't expect you guys as a board to do it all, right? We are a foundation of the community of NF. What can we, as me, as the NF community, what can we do to help you guys reach these goals that you have for the year?
I hope that our goals are reflecting our community's goals. That's our aim. And we've certainly spent a lot of time over the last year, running surveys and asking people and consulting. Are we doing what you want us to do? Are we, we're moving ahead with things that you're looking for? And I think I feel very confident that we're reflecting that. So I think that if the community wants to get involved, please come and help, participate, find a way to participate, right? And that can mean all sorts of things. Talk to your doctor. When you have an appointment, talk to them and say, hey, I'm worried about just the care in general. What can we be doing about that? Or support us through some of the fundraisers. There are lots of those happening at the moment. Or support us, just come to one of our community events. I think we're having a trivia contest coming up. Just join in. It's no it's very low effort, and it's a chance to connect with others in the community, and that's important. It shows us that you're involved and that you're excited about the things that we're working on. It even reports back to some of our funding agencies, right? We get to say, hey, we had 60 people turn out to a trivia night. That means something. It means that we're representing you and we're doing the work that you're interested in. What else? Join the board. Come and join us.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing. They're so collegial. They're so dedicated, and people are just working so hard in the background to make a difference. And if that interests you, then come and join us. It's not 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
I wish I had that kind of time to dedicate. But there's always a way to be involved. We're always looking for volunteers, for board members, for fundraisers. Come and join us. It's actually really fun. And I've met some of the most wonderful people I've ever met through this whole process.
Would you say that it's helped you along on, like how you were saying earlier about when you found the foundation, that it brought a normalcy? Have you found that being on the board and being more involved in the community, it has helped you with your NF journey for you and your family?
I think so. I find, well, in a couple of ways. I think that, like I said, turning my anxiety into action for me is a really important thing. I need somewhere to put that energy and to put it somewhere constructive. And so for me, that helps. But it's also modeling for my child, right? I'm trying to show this is how you advocate for yourself. This is how you be involved, how you make things better for yourself and for others. And this is how you form a community. I think that's really important. I won't always be here. And someday he's going to be managing this on his own. And I'm very, very conscious that he needs to learn how to do that. And those skills are not easy. And I know lots of adults who don't have them. So I'm really trying to show him, this is how you do it. This is how you have a community around you that's supportive, and you find the resources that you need, and you push for the care that you deserve. That's my aim anyway. I don't know if he's learning anything yet, but
oh, they're always watching, aren't they? They're always watching. So I think he's learning as he's watching you, for sure. Yes. Well, Jill, like you're like, your passion, I can see it come through. That I love the action, the taking the action, I think is a huge thing that changes things, right? Even if it's a small action, like you were saying, the small things, it allows us to make things happen and helps us along the way, right? As a parent now, like that's coming from a board, which is still as a parent, but what, like when you were going through it, you were saying that you had some pretty scary times and things like that. In that moment, I'm sure a lot of our families get to that point, like you said, where they get this diagnosis and there's all this and things can come on and get scary. What's, like you said, the action, but what else could, like, coping mechanisms of some kind that people, that you would suggest that they do to help them cope with getting through?
think this is such a goofy thing to admit, but I can remember coming back from a medical appointment with my son, and we were getting on the ferry, and I was processing like so much information that we'd been told and some really scary, prospects. And I was like, could barely breathe. It was just so overwhelming.
Yeah.
And I remember looking over at him and thinking, he was climbing on a playground structure or something and about to fall.
Oh.
And I thought, whoa, wait, I still have to parent. Like, I still have to be a parent to this kid. I still have to like set boundaries and do all the things that parents have to do. And for me, that was really valuable, right? It was like, wait, focus on your role. Your role is to keep them safe in this minute. And, yes, there are scary things down the road, and you can focus on those in a second, but right now, focus on that. I think, I don't know, that's always just worked for me, like to remember that he is not his disorder. He is still rambunctious and opinionated and stubborn, all those wonderful things about kids. Kid, and he still needs me to just parent and be that person and be the support and set the boundaries and sometimes be mean. So for me, that was really valuable to kind of say, okay, that's the core job. All of this other stuff is happening and I need to deal with it, but I don't need to be the expert in it. And I don't need to be, it doesn't need to be my life 24/7. And there are others out there who can help me with that side of it. That's what worked for me anyway.
Yeah. Wow. No, that's good because it's being present, right? It's not taking everything and just like, as you said, being present in this moment. This is what I need to do, and the rest will come, right? I think that's wonderful, wonderful advice. Well, thank you so much, Jill. I feel so much better talking to you, and I don't know, just to hear your side of it was really nice to sit down and have that chance to talk with you and hear the wonderful things that the board is trying to accomplish and is getting done with the help of the community and people like you who are advocating getting out there. And just thank you so much for sharing with me today.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure to talk. I feel like someday we should switch the tables and we should hear your story.
I was the first one. Go back if for anybody else out there, if you want to hear my story,
go back
and watch. I am on there. I don't know how well I did, but if you have any questions, by all means, put comments. And hopefully with Jill, same thing. Do you mind if people ask you questions in the comments below for you to answer? And be wonderful. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Jill, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Great.
Thank you for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.